All right, good morning, everybody. We're here today to discuss the findings of our independent investigation into the officer-involved shooting involving Sidney Tafokitau. There are always two investigative questions that we ask. First is, was the use of deadly force resulting in the death of Sidney Tafokitau justified? And second, will any charges be filed against the Honolulu police personnel, a sergeant, and a number of officers in this case? And we have, we have concluded the use of deadly force was justified in his death and that no police personnel will be charged. Now, there are multiple scenes around Oahu ending near the intersection of University Avenue and Dole Street. It was daylight, the weather was clear. The first incident happened 7:15 a.m. Honolulu Freeway near Aloha Stadium. I'm going to refer to Mr. Tafokitau by his initials ST as we go through this. He and his ex-girlfriend had argued. He then rammed the back of her car 3 times and shoots her 3 times, and that's her Civic that ended up there. She was transported to Queens Medical Center and treated for gunshot wounds to her right hand, left arm, and right leg. The next incident happened in Kalihi on North School Street. He started firing at D3, District 3 Crime Reduction Unit officers in their van with his AR-15 rifle 15 to 30 times. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. He then goes over Likelike to the windward side. He's on Kahikili Highway, driving the wrong way on the road, and he gets T-boned at the intersection by another vehicle. He then, and you can see when he came down over here, he's coming on the wrong side of the street. The other the other vehicle is driven by a person who's going through the intersection on the green, T-bones ST, and both cars stopped. He then, he crawls out of the window of his SUV. The door's damaged. He can't get out. The passenger in a car that was stopped there comes over to check him out. He then walks by her, and then he points his AR-15 at the driver. She had taken a picture of him getting out of the car, out of his damaged SUV. He then takes the Scion and drives off. He then drives to Kapahulu. He's westbound on Aloha Avenue. He fired 1 shot, and you can see, if you look carefully, you can see the white Scion. You can see the white Scion. He made 1 shot. No injuries reported, but he did hit the vehicle. And you can see it there, and then there's a close-up as well of the bullet hole. So 1 shot, he hit the vehicle, nobody was injured. He's now up on the North Shore. He first goes driving up this way toward Kahuku. He passes on the right-hand side a motorcycle, sideswipes it, pushing it into oncoming vehicles. He managed to get back, and then he's coming down further this way. There's a police helicopter that's now up in the air trying to locate him. And when they do locate him, they see him going on H1, then toward Haleiwa. Then they have to return to the airport to get refueled. And then when they find him again, he's heading up this way, northbound toward Kahuku. And he's passing all sorts of people into oncoming traffic. And like I say, the HPD helicopter had tracked it. Then he's on Kamehameha Highway heading toward Kahuku. And as it passed through that and then starts to head southbound, the road really got crowded with traffic. As a result, he was driving on the wrong side of the street for several miles while he's headed south here. An HPD helicopter saw foot traffic by Laniakea Beach many people moving toward the roadway, holding up their phones with a camera aimed toward the roadway. Obviously, to my opinion, trying to film him as he's coming down. The helicopter then sees the danger here. They went close to the ground to try to push the bystanders back for their own safety. The helicopter turned into the wind, now facing the Scion, and they observed him insert the AR-15. There's a hole in his windshield, a bullet hole in the windshield. He pushes that out through the hole, and then the helicopter folks see that just 3 distinct flashes coming from the Scion and realize that he's shooting at them and he's trying to shoot down the helicopter. They then immediately took evasive action to avoid being shot. Then a number of officers are over here by Kahala Mall, right where Kalananoli Highway starts, and he's also headed eastbound out here toward, heading toward Hawaii Kai, but he's at that intersection, and that's and so he's in the right-hand lane, and he makes a big U-turn to head back westbound on Kalananoli Highway and then onto the freeway. There's several police vehicles that have located him at the same time here, and many of them are lined up here in the area or pulling into the area in the left-handmost lane, and they see him when he drives past. So the HPD D7 crew officers were stopped there at that intersection in their truck, and they see him make a wide U-turn and head back westbound. As he's passing in front of them, he's got the rifle sticking out through the front. When he first starts and he points it at them, one of the officers fired 3 times at them. He completed the U-turn and headed westbound. An HPD captain was in his subsidized vehicle heading eastbound. He's headed toward the intersection, and he saw ST point his rifle at him and fire multiple shots. No injuries were reported. The sergeant and Officer 1 were in a D3 crew truck approaching the same intersection. As he headed westbound, he fired his rifle at their vehicle. No injuries reported. He drove the Scion westbound on H1. He took the Kapiolani Boulevard exit down Kapiolani Boulevard to Date Street, then Date Street to University Avenue. Then he took a right on University Avenue and headed Mauka toward the University of Hawaii, Manoa. Now, Corporal 2 and Officer 22 made a U-turn at that intersection out on Kalananoli Highway, and they heard that he had taken the Kapiolani Boulevard exit. So he took Corporal 2 took the University Avenue exit, and he heard that ST was on University Avenue headed his way. So he stopped on University Avenue right past the exit. So he stopped his vehicle right next to the music building there on University Avenue. And they had pulled right next to the curb. He then took cover beyond the front passenger wheel, and Officer 22 took cover on the passenger side as well. As the Scion approached, Corporal 2 said he heard 4 to 6 gunshots coming from the Scion. As the Scion was passing them, going Mauka, he fired more times at them. And as the Scion passed them, he fired a last shot. Corporal 2 heard Officer 22 yell that he had been shot. So Corporal 22 broadcast on the radio that shots were fired and officer down. He saw blood coming from Officer 22's abdomen. The HPD Sergeant Officer 1, who had been shot at by ST on Honolulu Highway, had started to pursue them. They heard he had taken Kapiolani Boulevard, so he took King Street off-ramp. Ross stopped at the University Avenue King Street intersection. He saw him pass right in front of them, headed northbound on University Avenue. The sergeant also turned northbound, and before ST reached the intersection, he heard gunshots. So that would have been ST firing at Corporal 2 and Officer 22. The sergeant saw ST pass Dole Street and then saw him open the driver's side door. So he then maneuvered his DC-3 crew truck onto the southbound lanes on University Avenue just north of Dole Street. And he saw ST get out of the Scion holding the rifle. So a number of officers then are converging on this area, and they're all getting on essentially the left side as you're headed Mauka. Those are southbound lanes. And you can see where the Scion, he gets out of the car and it kind of drifts back and comes to a stop. ST started shooting at the sergeant's vehicle, and the Sergeant Officer 1 got out of the D3 crew truck and started shooting back at ST with their Glocks. Shortly, ST fell to the ground, and the sergeant called for a ceasefire. At the same time, Officers 4, 5, 6, and 18, who had been in the D7 crew truck back at that same intersection on Honolulu Highway, they relocated him at that University Avenue and Dole Street intersection. So he started shooting at their vehicle, and so they pulled it onto the southbound lanes again in the same area near where Sergeant 1 was. Officer 4 exited the truck, fired rounds at ST with his own AR-15. Officers 5 and 6 also got out of the vehicle and fired with their Glocks. After ST was shot and went down, Officer 4 learned that Officer 18 in their vehicle had a gunshot head injury from ST. And Officer 18 said that as soon as their truck stopped on University Avenue, just north of Dole Street, again in the southbound lanes against traffic, he started shooting at them. Officer 18 was struck 3 times, 1 to his head, 1 to the left eye, and 1 to the left shoulder. Officers rendered aid, and he was transported to Queens Medical Center. And they couldn't tell if it was one bullet or a bullet that fragmented and hit him 3 times. So was it separate bullets or is it one? They couldn't tell. Now, Officer 2 was driving northbound on University Avenue. He saw ST slow get out of the Scion. He stopped there, same area, Mauka of Dole Street on University Avenue. And as ST started, it appeared, falling to the ground, he fired once at him with his own AR-15. Officer 3 heard that ST was headed northbound on University Avenue, so he took the University Avenue exit. He got there ahead of him, and he got out of his car, and ST drove right past him. And I think he's lucky that he didn't get shot. Officer 3 then drove and stopped on University Avenue, facing the southbound lanes just north of Dole Street. And he saw ST standing in the southbound lanes with his rifle. He shot at him with his Glock, and when he went down, Officer 3 yelled at the other officers to cease fire as well. So all of that happened beforehand. Now, they took a picture of the AR-15, and that's, you can see on the photograph, that was found on the ground. And then this is just a street level view. Those are the southbound lanes on the left. You can see the rifle is in the circle, and that's where he came up. That's the Scion. You can see the bullet hole through the front windshield, and that's where it rolled back and stopped by the curb. You can see Bachman Hall in the background. Now, Dr. Kikuchi, forensic pathologist at the medical examiner's office, did the autopsy for Mr. Tafokitau. He determined the cause of death to be multiple gunshot wounds, 23 in all. The cause of death, multiple gunshot wounds, right? A toxicology screen was positive for alcohol and for cocaine. His criminal history, Mr. Tafokitau had 14 prior felony convictions started in 1993. And those were the 6 counts of robbery in the second degree, you can see partway down that screen. And then more recently in 2021, 6 counts of robbery in the first degree, 2001, and then sentencing in 2002. The 6 counts of robbery in the first degree, use of a firearm in the commission of a separate felony, and felon in possession. There are also 3 prior misdemeanor or petty misdemeanor cases. He was convicted in March of 2002 of multiple counts of robbery in the first degree and was sent to prison. He then did 20 years. He maxed out his sentence on March 3, 2022, just under 2 years before this incident happened. And sometime later, he told a relative, "I'm not going back to prison." So more recent, before this, in November of 2023, he was charged with numerous offenses via felony information, including felon in possession, place to keep pistol or revolver, 2 counts of possession of prohibited detached ammunition magazine, and a place to keep ammunition. An information warrant of arrest was served on him on that date with bail set at $150,000. He then, bond was posted for him, and he was released on December 1st of 2023. On December 20th of 2023, 3 weeks later, a no-bail warrant of arrest was issued for his arrest for the following offenses allegedly committed on December 16, 2023. 1 count of attempted murder in the first degree, 5 counts of attempted murder in the second degree, 6 counts of carrying or use of a firearm in the commission of a separate felony, 1 count of felon in possession, 1 count of assault in the second degree. When that was issued on the December 20th, HPD began searching for Mr. Tafokitau. Now, when we do an analysis of this, we're looking at, these are justifications. Should police officers be charged? So in every one of these cases, that's what we're looking at. And first, we look at use of deadly force in self-protection. That's HRS 703-304. The use of deadly force in self-defense involves 2 issues. Did the actors use deadly force? Yes, no question about it. Sergeant 1 and officers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 intentionally shot Mr. Tafokitau. These shots were not accidents. Second, was the use of deadly force justified? Yes. Mr. Tafokitau got out of the Scion and was firing his AR-15 at Sergeant 1 and officers 1, 4, 5, and 6. Officer 18 was injured by 1 or more of those bullets. Sergeant 1 and officers 1, 4, 5, and 6 returned fire. They were all justified in the use of force in self-protection when they shot or were shot at by Mr. Tafokitau. Officer 2 and Officer 3 arrived. They all started to fire shots at Mr. Tafokitau, who was still in possession of the AR-15 and posed a danger to them both. Second, use of deadly force in the protection of other people. The use of deadly force in the protection of others involves 2 issues. 1, did the actors use deadly force? Yes. Sergeant 1 and officers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 intentionally shot at Mr. Tafokitau. These shots were not accidents. 2, was the use of deadly force justified? Yes. HPD personnel were aware that Mr. Tafokitau had shot his ex-girlfriend and had been shooting at police officers throughout the day. He stopped the stolen Scion and got out and started shooting at multiple officers with his AR-15. You know, it certainly looks to me like this was suicide by cop, where he is getting out of his Scion, he's got his AR-15, and he's just shooting at all these police cars and police officers that were there in front of him. And unfortunately, they had to do that. So as a result, Sergeants 1 and Officers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were justified in shooting or shooting at Mr. Tafokitau in protection of the other Honolulu Police Department personnel. So the conclusion is The use of deadly force which resulted in his death was justified. And second, no charges will be filed against Honolulu Police Sergeant 1 or Honolulu Police Officers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, on January 1st, 2024, Mr. Tafokitau was on a rampage. He tried to kill his ex-girlfriend, and then he put numerous other drivers at risk with his driving around. He had told a relative he was not going back to prison. He tried to kill multiple police officers and seriously injured 2 of them. The police did their job that day and behaved professionally and courageously. I would like to note that so far this year, we have had more than 60 assault on police officer cases, including an attempted murder, that have been referred to us by the police department. Being a police officer can be tough and dangerous work, and we should all be thankful to them for putting their lives at risk every day, not knowing when they could be shot at or killed. And I really appreciate them being willing to take on this difficult but critically important job. I'd be happy to try to answer any of your questions. And Mark Ewan, who's head of our screening intake division, did the deep dive on the investigation on this case. We will be posting a copy of the written report on our website for you to access. You'll get a copy of the PowerPoint today. Yeah.
A father and a son were beaten during the police operation right before Mr. Tafokitau was shot and killed. Has the Department of the Prosecuting Attorney received the results of HPD's criminal and PSO investigation into that incident?
We have gotten the information, but the investigation is not quite done.
Okay, so you haven't gotten enough to make a determination whether or not charges should be filed in that incident?
That has not been decided.
Okay.
Something like this, is there body cam footage that's available?
In this case, almost no, because of what happened and the speed of all of it happening. And they were almost all crew officers, and their HPD is not, at this point, having body cam footage for crime reduction unit officers. Yeah?
Do you have any idea around when you'll make a determination on the charges in the beating allegation?
Don't know, but we'll do it as soon as we can. It's been a busy year.
Is that investigation still going on in the department, or do you have any prosecutors assigned to assist in that investigation?
Yeah, well, and the prosecutors, we're reviewing all the police reports, talking to the police, and we'll deal with that as soon as we can.
But they're telling you that their investigation is still ongoing?
No, I think they're done and they've sent it to us.
Okay.
So we're making the final call.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you have a count of how many rounds he fired total throughout the day?
I don't.
How many?
It's a lot. I mean, he was hit 23 times, but the only shots at him were up there on University Avenue, right? He was shooting at the helicopter. He shot at the, crime reduction unit officers. I'd have to go back here and count, but some of the time they said it seemed like several. The other time was 15 to 30. I mean, it was a lot of shots, and it appears that the officer who got shot in the stomach was the very last shot as he passed it. So he had the angle on them on the other side of the vehicle.
Have those officers been able to return to work, or what's their current job and health status?
I'm not sure. I think I believe the one with the stomach is back at work, but I'm not sure about the other one. Do you know, Mark?
No. We can ask it. We can ask.
Okay. Okay.
Do you think officers could have done anything differently in this situation?
No, I don't know. Mike Juliana is looking at essentially what happened to see what his intent was during the day. But Mike Juliana is looking at what happened on University Avenue past Dole Street when he was shooting at them, and that's when the officers shot and killed him. Was that justifiable? And I found that it was. That what they did was justified. A police officer would tell you they hope to go their career without shooting anybody. And nobody thought that day when they woke up that something like this would happen. It's just a terrible shame when people, commit crimes like this and then, end up trying to get themselves killed. because even police officers, even if they're totally justified, they got to live with the fact that they killed somebody, and that's got to be, a burden to carry, but that they know that's part of the job, and so they did it, and, I applaud them for being professional and doing the right thing.
Do you know how many officers were involved in the beating case, the father and son?
And, no, and since it's not been dealt with completely, I'd rather not comment on it.
When were they done with that investigation? When did they wrap that up? How long when you got the results of their investigation?
Again, I'd rather not discuss it.
Does the department ever do any analysis on, I guess, the number, or has it done any analysis on the number of shots or like justification? 23 is a lot to have actually hit.
Well, I think it was a lot all at once. So they were all together at the time, and he's coming at him. So I think that was a lot of shots fired at about the same time, because nobody knows. If I've got a guy coming at me, shooting at me, I'm going to shoot at him, and the person next to me is thinking the exact same thing. So it wasn't like it was a shot here, and then sometime later a second shot and a third shot. From my analysis here, all these shots were at about the same time over the space of a few seconds when he came out of the car and is approaching them. Because it is several lanes wide on each side, but that is not a huge area. When you look at it on Dole Street, if he's getting out of his car and then right across several lanes, and then he's shot and killed and goes to the ground just past the medial strip toward University Lab School, that this all happened really quickly.
Can you say again, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, how long it took from when he left his car until all the firing stopped?
I don't know if anyone had a stopwatch on that. My guess would be seconds, because his car is on, in one lane, and he goes right across where this car is up against the curb, and he got out of it before it came to a complete stop. But there are three lanes across, so he's walking there, and you can see where the gun is. So that's about 2 lanes of traffic that he walked across, and then at the end of that was shot and killed, because the rifle was found right past that medial strip. And the police have to, this is the real world. They've got somebody shooting an AR-15 at them. They know he shot other people, and he's seriously trying to kill them. So they're all shooting, whether it was with a Glock or whether it was, with an AR-15 for a couple of them.
Do you know
Yeah.
if officers were following policy throughout the day in terms of just the pursuit?
Again, my kuleana is, I'll leave that to the police. My kuleana is what happened when the officers used deadly force against Mr. Tafokitau, and was that justified or not? And I found that it is justified.
How long was your investigation to determine the outcome of this case?
It's taken a while over this year. We're dealing with, there's several officer-involved investigations. We're working on they happen all at the same time. It's typically a division chief who's assigned to do the initial part of it. I think this press conference was delayed a little bit because the Miami case came up again, and I ended up getting involved with that and refamiliarizing myself with all of that. Otherwise, this probably would have happened a month ago or something like that. Okay, well, thank you all very much.